My name is Olivia, I'm 35, and my family branded me a failure at our annual summer barbecue, although my sister bragged about a life-changing job interview. The only problem? The interview was with me. Before I tell you how I became the CEO they never knew about, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. The air at the barbecue was thick with the smell of grilled chicken and condescension. It was the first family event I'd been to in months, and I already regretted it. My mother, Elizabeth, cornered me by the potato salad, her face a mask of practiced concern. "You're 35, Olivia, still lost," she said, her voice dripping with the kind of disappointment that only a mother can perfect. That's when my sister, Victoria, glided over, a triumphant smirk playing on her lips. "I've got an interview with Nexus Solutions," she announced to the whole yard, senior project manager. My father, James, beamed, raising his beer bottle. "That's my girl, the Parker Smarts." I just smiled, a small, tight smile they couldn't read. They had no idea. Nexus Solutions was the public-facing name for the recruiting arm of my company. Tomorrow, Victoria would walk into my world, and she would discover that the sister she called a failure was the one who held her future in her hands, and she was never, ever getting that job. The scene felt painfully familiar. It took me back 7 years to a different gathering in a different season. I was in my second year of law school, buried in debt and misery, when I found it, a technological glitch, a massive inefficiency in how legal firms process documents. And I saw a solution. I spent weeks building a proposal, my heart pounding with a passion I'd never felt for torts or contracts. I presented it to them in the family living room, my hands shaking as I held up my diagrams. I expected questions, maybe skepticism. I didn't expect an intervention. My father called it a dangerous distraction. My mother cried, begging me not to throw away a perfectly good future. Victoria, already a rising star at some consulting firm, just stood there silently siding with them. Their message was clear: my dream was an embarrassment. My path was wrong because it wasn't their path. That was the day I started building my wall. I dropped out of law school the next week. I called my best friend, Clara, the only one who didn't think I was insane. "I believe in you, Liv," she'd said. "Do it." And I did. I moved into a tiny apartment, lived on ramen noodles, and poured every ounce of my being into my idea. I incorporated the company under my mother's maiden name, a small private irony. I named it Vertex Solutions. And for my public-facing identity, the one that went on tech panels and in magazine articles, I was simply Old Parker, a strategic layer of separation from the family that had already written me off. For 7 years, I built my empire in silence while they lamented my fall from grace. Back at the barbecue, my father was still holding court. "If only you could focus like your sister, Olivia," he said, not unkindly, but with a finality that twisted in my gut. I watched them all celebrating Victoria for landing an interview at a company they'd never heard of, while I, the actual founder and CEO of that company, stood there holding a paper plate, a ghost in my own life. I saw something then, just for a second. As Victoria laughed, a flash of utter exhaustion crossed her face. Her hand, holding a wine glass, was clenched so tight her knuckles were white, a tiny crack in the perfect porcelain facade. It was then I knew tomorrow wasn't just about me. It was about tearing down the whole charade. The next morning, the view from my office was clear and sharp. Boston spread out below me, a city of brick and ambition, my ambition. I wasn't pacing or stewing in anger, I was calm, strategic. I dialed into a video call with Clara, my head of HR, and David Chin, my COO. Their faces popped up, professional and ready. "She's in the lobby," Clara said softly. "Good," I replied, my voice even. "Interview her like any other candidate." "No, better, like a candidate for a sweet position. Dig deep, ask for metrics, results, specific contributions, no softball questions." David nodded, his expression unreadable. "And you?" "I'll be watching," I said, gesturing to the secondary monitor on my desk. "From right here, let's see what she's really made of." This wasn't about a childish prank. This was a corporate audit of a life built on buzzwords and parental approval. My power wasn't in the confrontation, it was in the quiet, objective truth. Victoria walked into the glass-walled conference room with the unearned confidence of someone who has never truly been challenged. She shook hands with David and Clara, her smile bright and polished. I watched on my screen, a silent observer in my own headquarters. The interview started smoothly. She recited her resume flawlessly. But then David leaned forward. You mentioned you led the initiative at your last firm, he said. Can you give us the specific ROI on that project? What was the percentage of cost savings you personally delivered? Victoria blinked. Well, it was a team effort, of course. I was more on the strategic oversight. Clara jumped in. Your resume lists proficiency in SQL. Could you walk us through a complex query you've written recently to extract user data? Silence. A long, painful silence. I could see a single bead of sweat trickle down her temple. She was failing, not because of me, but because she was a product, not a producer. Her entire career was a collection of impressive-sounding titles with no substance underneath. After 20 minutes of gentle probing questions, her perfect composure had crumbled into a flustered, rambling mess. David finally put her out of her misery. Thank you for your time, Victoria. We'll be in touch. He and Clara stood up. But before Victoria could gather her things, the conference room door opened. I walked in. I didn't smile. I didn't look angry. I just looked at her, the prodigal daughter standing in the temple of the failure. Victoria, I said, my voice quiet but filling the room. Her head snapped up. Her face went from confused to shocked to a pale, horrified white. Olivia, what are you doing here? I walked to the head of the table and placed my hands on the back of my chair. Welcome to Vertex Solutions, I said. I'm the CEO. After David and Clara slipped out of the room, a heavy silence fell between us. The air crackled with 7 years of unspoken words. Victoria just stood there frozen, her designer handbag dangling from her limp hand. The fight had completely gone out of her. Then her shoulders started to shake. A quiet, racking sob escaped her lips. It wasn't a cry of frustration over a lost job. It was deeper. It was the sound of a lifetime of pressure finally cracking. I hate it, she whispered, sinking into a chair. Liv, I've hated all of it. Every job, every fake smile, every single thing they wanted me to be. Her eyes, red and puffy, finally met mine. You were the brave one, you got out. I was just jealous. In that moment, the anger I'd been nursing for years just evaporated. All I saw was my sister trapped in a gilded cage she had helped build. The victory I thought I wanted felt hollow. What I really wanted was for both of us to be free. A month later, we were at another family dinner. It was awkward. My parents tried to talk about my company using business terms they'd clearly Googled 5 minutes before I arrived. They praised Victoria for signing up for a pottery class with the same tone they used to use for her promotions, a strange attempt at being supportive. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was clumsy and real and a start. Across the table, Victoria caught my eye and gave me a small, genuine smile. We were navigating this new world together. A few months after that, I was in my office late one night reviewing a grant proposal for a new fund my company started for unconventional entrepreneurs. My phone buzzed. It was a picture from Victoria. A lopsided, frankly ugly clay pot. The caption read, "First one, it's ugly, but it's mine." I smiled, a real, warm smile that reached my eyes, and I finally understood. Success wasn't building an empire to prove them wrong. It was about creating a world where you and the people you love have the freedom to make your own ugly, beautiful, imperfect things. It was about being the architect of your own life. Thank you so much for listening to my story. It's been a crazy journey, and I'm still figuring it all out. I'd love to know, have you ever felt pressure from your family to follow a certain path? Let me know your story in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe for more. It really helps the channel.